Hi friends! This is our Hungry for More FPL podcast. I'm Carmina.
And my name is Taylor. We're your FPL girls all the way from Melbourne, Australia. Join us in our chats about all things FPL,
including weekly analyses, trending transfers, and choosing the best players for your team.
Welcome. Are you new to FPL? You came to the right place. By the end of the episode, you'll have a good grasp on what FPL is, how to make effective transfers, and know the ins and outs of each part of the game. Plus some top tips to keep you sharp throughout the season. Stick around for our mistakes to avoid as well. How are you going, Carmina?
So let's start off maybe with what FPL is. For those of you who have not heard of it, it is a game where you manage a team of 15 players and you're the one who decides to bring in players, take them out. You've got a budget there of £100 million.
Wow.
Yeah, which is pretty great.
Imagine actually having £100 million.
That would be a different story altogether. The purpose is there. You want to try and score as many points as you can based on what actually happens in the real life games. So it's actually quite fun to sit and watch kind of any team to play, I guess.
Did you know that there was a record breaking 8.3 million managers played the game last season?
That's insane.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm glad I'm playing this year then. That's awesome. Well, I guess we can talk about who's playing it. Who are the types of people that are playing it? There's people all over the world who watch the English Premier League and they play fantasy. They play FPL. From your average Joes to celebrities to actual players. They're actual players. Have you seen those?
Oh my god, that is so cool.
Yeah.
Like, the guy from Let's Talk FPL was talking to Foster the other week.
Yeah,
that was
awesome.
great.
He loves it. He really loves it, Ben Foster. He's I think he's coming back from injury to this week. He's had a bit of a hammy injury, but hopefully he's okay. Hope you're okay, Ben Foster, if you're listening.
I know. I had him in my team and he's just on the bench.
Oh, poor guy. You might find that there's like lots of partners and football lads who play FPL too. I think that's something that's really cool for people to kind of get involved with. They watch it at like sports bars, on YouTube. I know I watched a couple of people. I watched people watching the games, which is great because they were so into some of the players that were there. Hilarious! Loved it. I guess it just makes it more entertaining, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Like, the reason I joined it is I want to get involved with knowing players and knowing what's happening, and this just entices you to want to know what's going on, and you actually start to really enjoy watching the games because you know who you're watching.
That's so true. Yeah, I find that like when I'm researching for my teams and that, it's fun to get involved with the community. Like, everyone's so lovely. You jump onto Twitter, you get into the YouTube live streams, all those sorts of things. It's good fun. It's really good fun. I guess if we come down to it, it's a game where you kind of just pick and choose who you think is going to do well. That's the bottom line of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. We might go over to the navigating the FPL website. If those of you who are on the YouTube, you could probably see on the screen there. Here is my team, but we might go over to have a look at some of the rules. On the FPL website, there is a bunch of rules. There's a whole list of things about how you gain points, who's ready to captain, those sorts of things, as well as the injuries. I've seen heaps around there. Yeah.
So if you're listening to us, make sure to get your FPL team on the website, either on the computer or on your phone, and just go through it with us while we talk about it so you can get a good idea of what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. So come round one, game week one, usually there's quite a number of teams that have like preseason games, so it's nice to know and keep up to date with what's going on before the first game week actually happens. That way you kind of build your team around what you kind of know already, or what you've heard about, or how certain players are going. So I think that's always a good start. So the 15 players that you normally get, and we'll just have a look here. Well, the 15 players that you normally get, you'll have 11 playing, you'll have one keeper on the bench, and you can choose your formation. You can choose whether you want a 4-4-2. You can swap it around and have 3 defenders and 4 midfielders, or if you want 3 up top, as long as you have the 11 players to start, I guess. And you can basically pick players from teams based on their predetermined price in the game. Watch how they earn points. You can do something called captaining a person or a player. You can also vice captain. So that's actually really important when you go into a game week, that the captain doubles the points that they receive. So if, for example, Salah scores a goal, he gets double, and he's my captain, he gets double the amount of points, which is wonderful. So it's always good to pick a good captain.
So nice.
Yeah. The bench order as well is really important. If you will have, I guess, you'll have 3 players on the bench plus a goalkeeper. So one of your goalkeepers won't be counting the points. Yeah. Just like that. And then 3 of your other players, the ones who don't make the starting 11, they'll be sitting on your bench. But the order is important because if one of your 11 misses out on the game, they don't even step onto the pitch. They will basically pick the first on your bench, that bench order.
Yeah, so the number 1. So if your teammate doesn't play, then the number 1 in your bench will be the player that goes back on the pitch.
Yeah. Let's have a look at transfers, because transfers are basically vital to this game, isn't it?
Yes.
It's pretty much transferring. You can transfer 1 player in per week for free, and then replace it with another player within the same position. So, for example, a defender, you're taking out a defender, you've got to put in a defender for around about the same price, or you can actually change it so you are fitting it within your budget of the £100 million.
Something to keep in mind is if you don't use that transfer for the week, it will carry over to the next week. So sometimes that's really good to keep holding on to that so you can make a big transfer so you can make your budget.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes, like even a couple of weeks ago, I made a hit, which is basically if you don't have enough free transfers and you haven't saved up enough, then you can actually spend hits or spend points from the next following game week to bring in an extra player or make an extra transfer, basically. So that can be useful. I mean, that's something that a lot of players do, but I think it's more of a strategic thing that you really got to think about if you're doing it for the right reasons and fixing the right issues in your team, I guess.
Yeah, right. So, but that free hit, does that stay, or was that one just for the 1 week and then it reverts back to your team?
Yeah, so there's a number of chips. The free hit is basically a redo for your team for that week. So a free hit, if you play a free hit, you can make as many transfers as you want, and then it will actually revert back to your original team the following week. So it's only like a one-off kind of week. Those are really good for like later on in the season when there's a lot of games going on and stuff like that. So we can definitely talk more about that as well.
Yeah,
definitely.
Because I find a lot of players start to build up injuries, and then there's like the international breaks or something later on. So you need to just use a bunch of players that you don't have just for that week. So it's really good.
Yeah, absolutely. There's also the other chip is the bench boost. So the bench boost is for a single game week as well, and that basically is the 3 players on your bench will also count towards your score. So if you've got 1 player on the bench who scores a goal or scores an assist, their points will also count towards your overall 11 players that were playing, I guess.
So it's good to keep in mind when those players are actually going to have a good game week.
Yeah.
So when the teams are actually playing a team that might be a bit easier.
Fixtures are such a big thing. That's massive. Yeah. To know your fixtures, you kind of look at it to see, is this player going to have a good game week next week? Are they going to have a hard game against Man City or Liverpool or something like that? Really important as well to have a look at that.
Can we get that up?
Yeah. Let's have a look. So
have a look at an example of that. Would
fixtures.
Be great.
Yeah, let's have a look at the fixtures. So the fixtures are based on obviously what happens in the real life. So this week, tonight in Australia here it's the morning, but tonight we will be watching the game at 8:30, Crystal Palace versus Spurs. So Spurs generally are quite good. I mean, we won't go through every single team at the moment, but I mean, this is the general idea of it. Every game week, each team will play each other. In terms of the fixtures on the website, actually, there's this thing called the FDR, which is a fixture difficulty rating, and it rates the teams based on how easy and how difficult their fixture is, you know?
So can you access that actually through your player on your team if you click onto them?
Yeah, they give you like
and you
a profile.
view their stats.
Yeah.
I think I've got Trent up here.
Yeah.
And if I scroll, it will show his difficulty for the next few games. Yeah, that's really good.
That's helpful for like planning your team, I guess. Especially if you're going by player, but this is just an overall one, I guess. If we go back to the transfers as well, like you said, there's that little button there that's got the information. You can have a look at the player's history and then their fixtures as well. So you can see in the red, obviously, that makes it a little bit difficult, but the green is what we want. That's the easier fixtures, the deemed easier. I mean, everyone has their off days and on days, so I guess we've got to take that into account as well. Let's move back to the chips. So we've already spoken about the bench boost and the free hit. The triple captain speaks for itself. Normally, when you captain a player, it's double the points. So with the triple captain, just for that one game week, they will get triple the amount of points. You know, you got to kind of use some maths there, but you know.
I love that, but you have to be so careful because I captained Fernandez a few weeks ago and he got 1 point.
Yeah,
so do you know
how
fun. Much points I got? I got 3 points.
Good maths. Yeah, that's not fun. Yeah, I know. Well, you know, every player has their kind of game, so it is hard to predict. You can only do so much research, really.
That's so true.
Yeah, these chips are good though. The one game changer, this is an absolute game changer, is the wild card. So you get 2 wild cards in a season. You get one that you can use before Christmas, New Year, and then one that you can use in the second half of the season. So the wild card is basically you get to redo your whole team. You get the same. You've got still 100 million pounds, but you can basically restructure your whole team. So that can be quite good if you've got a number of injuries, or you think that you've got 5 players that need that fixture change, and they've got a number of bad fixtures. Those sorts of things. That's really good for that. And planning for a wild card is really important to check the fixtures. And obviously some players get really popular. Those sorts of things, and even price changes. So as we talked about before, how all the players have a predetermined price based on how they're playing, etc., and the stats. But also throughout the season, there will be price rises and price drops. So basically, they'll go up by 0.1 million, or they can go down by 0.1 million, depending on how many people transfer them in. That's really important to remember. Yeah.
It's actually so good that they let you use the wild card twice. So make sure you use it and don't be afraid not to. And set up your team, set up who you would like to use. But you don't have to use it yet. Just have it ready so you're actually thinking about what you're doing and you can make that critical move if you need to.
Absolutely. So what I want to talk about is the blank game weeks and double game weeks. So chips are really important to use during those times, because if a blank game week is basically when a team doesn't have a game that week, and it usually gets postponed to a different date. So in that sense, if they've got a blank game week in 1 week, they're obviously going to play 2 games in a different week. So you can use that to your advantage in thinking, excuse me, there'll be a number of players who will be playing 2 games within the week. That way they score twice the amount. They have more chances to score, right? That makes it so much better. Yeah, really, really good to.
So, when do we get an idea of when that's going to happen? Should we just keep up with Let's Talk FPL people, or will there be an indication that there's going to be a huge international break or other game breaks?
Yeah. Well, I guess the season obviously lasts for 38 weeks, but within those 38 weeks, you've also got the Champions League. You've got things like international games, this like friendlies, those sorts of cups and tournaments. They're all fixed in into within the season. So I guess you just got to kind of keep up to date with all the other tournaments that are going on, and I guess
Yeah.
that's the best thing about being within the FPL communities. You get so much chatter, and you hear about all these Brazilians, are they coming back from their World Cup, or those sorts of things. Really good to know, really good to be in the know, and I guess that's great to be updated with all of that.
So guys, don't be afraid about the idea of that, because we will also keep you updated.
Absolutely.
On all the news.
Definitely.
We are totally into it, and we're in that community, so we really want to communicate to you what we think and what we know is going on in the EPL for our FPL.
Yes, definitely. The deadline, so every week before an hour and a half before the deadline. Oh, goodness me. I can't even talk today.
It's just one of those days.
It is. An hour and a half before the first game week is when the deadline is. And the deadline basically means that you cannot make any more transfers. That's the final straw. And, there are people who really just look out. There's even like rumors and stuff. I don't know if you've seen this, but on Twitter and stuff, you might hear that, Trent Alexander-Arnold's not playing, or this person's injured, or, this person's been COVID tested or whatever. Like, there's so much going on. But yeah, it is important to make sure you make your transfers before the deadline, or if you're activating your chip, make sure you know what you're doing before the deadline, because once that passes, see you later. There's nothing else you can do. We might go on to this scoring system. On the website, they've actually got a really good area where the rules come up, and we might talk about the scoring system, because as you know, you obviously get the points from their realistic games, so what happens in real life. So for playing up to 60 minutes in a game, you get 1 point. Playing more than 60 minutes, including stoppage time, you get 2 extra points. For each goal scored by a goalkeeper or defender, you get 6 points. That's pretty good.
Nice.
But that's by a goalkeeper and defender, which is why it's really important to have a defender who is kind of an attacking threat, who gets up there, who makes crosses, who sometimes could even score a header from corners, those sorts of things. Centre backs are really good for that. You've also got scores, scoring a goal from a midfielder. You get 5 points, and for each goal that you score as a forward, you get 4 points. So you can see that obviously strikers are more common to get a goal rather than defenders. For each goal assist, you get 3 points. For a clean sheet by a goalkeeper or a defender, you get 4 extra points. So those clean sheets are really important. You've got to have a pretty good solid defense, which is great. It's always good to have.
And I love how a clean sheet just by midfielder is only 1 point.
Yeah, I know, that's crazy. But again, it adds up as well. It adds up, so that's good, right?
Like, even the goalkeeper saving 3 shots, that's only 1 point.
Yeah.
The goalkeepers are the lowest scoring players on the pitch.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind when you're choosing your players and the prices, because mainly we all try to get a kind of low goalkeeper pricing. And if they do a lot of saves, that's really good. They don't have to be the top goalkeeper in the league like Alisson, because he might not make as much saves in a game because his defense is playing a great game.
Pretty solid, yeah. And also with that, I guess you don't want to use up a spot, because you can only have 3 players from the same team. So you don't want to use a Liverpool spot in your back line as a goalkeeper, because we know that Liverpool players, they are full in force, especially up the front. You've got the likes of Salah, Mane, you've got Firmino, you've got Jota, you've got so many players that can be scoring. So it's important to kind of think about who are the actual players and which teams are they coming from. That's really important. But that's a really good point, actually. For each penalty save, they get 5 points. That's pretty cool. That's pretty good.
Ooh, that's good. That's good.
Although if they miss the penalty, it's -2. So they take off the 2 points. I know. So sometimes you'll see like Harry Kane will get his goal saved, his penalty saved, but then he'll knock it straight back in. So that's like a -2, but he's also scored. So it's kind of you probably should have scored in the first place,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, honestly, I've never thought of that and how that comes into play with the points.
Yeah.
But it is crucial, isn't it, if he misses?
Yeah, and bonus points. So there's a whole bonus point system. Basically, that's based off what the statistics are reading from. So how many, passes they make, have they made any interceptions or tackles, did they make an assist, how are they holding up, those sorts of things, how they play in a match. They'll be assigned 3, 2, or 1 bonus points. So there'll be a number of players who are doing well, and some of them are they're bonus points magnets. So people who are in the midfield, like Declan Rice, he is an absolute magnet because he plays well in the midfield, makes those passes, does the important tackles, those sorts of things. Really key to just pick up 1 or 2 points, and over a couple of weeks that can actually make quite a difference. So DPS system,
Yeah, that's also why a lot of people choose either a midfielder or a forward as their captain, because they just have that possibility to get more points over a defender.
Yeah, definitely. For every 2 goals conceded by a goalkeeper or a defender is -1. So you don't want a non-solid defense who are constantly just leaking goals. Not good at all. You're going to get some -1s in there for sure. Yeah, yellow cards in -1, and red cards in -3. Oof, that's painful. And an own goal. I haven't seen an own goal this season yet, but own goals are -2, so you don't want to lose some points from that too. Clean sheets. We talked about clean sheets, but they have to play at least 60 minutes. So a defender or a goalkeeper has to play at least 60 minutes to get those 4 points for a clean sheet. Assist is this basically on the website says a little bit more detail about bonus points, about assists, and the way things are scored. So there is more information there, which is great. That's why it's so useful on the website. It's really, really good. Really good. We might go on to the next part here about their prices. So we did briefly speak about players' prices. They do change week to week if they are being brought in a lot or being shipped out a lot. So it really depends on the team. They can only change a 0.1 million a day. So, from day to day, obviously, not everyone will change, but, there might be one player that goes up, but they can only go up once per day. Let's have a look here. What else are we going to talk about? Let's go into our league codes. We've got a league code with some prizes, and we're going to talk about that a bit later as well, I think.
Ooh, yeah.
We've got some mistakes to avoid. So this is what we need to talk about, because there are some little tips and tricks that can help you throughout the season. There's things like you don't want to take too many risks, but at the same time, if you have an inkling or you have a gut feeling to go with a player, do it. You can't have everyone. Honestly, that's one of the things that I have to keep reminding myself, so I'm not, constantly bringing in or chasing, different players, is not to, you can't have everyone. You just honestly can't. Like, how are you going to afford to have Ronaldo, Kane, and Lukaku? That's basically impossible,
I can tell sometimes it's just so hard for you to make a decision.
Yeah.
You just hear all the good news about all these upcoming players that are going to have great results, and it's just so hard to just either stay with what you've got or make another decision.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's so true. We try not to use hits unless you have like a log of issues. So the hits are unless you are completely sure that that's what you want to do, and you want to take those -4 or -8 to bring in extra players, or change up a few things. You might as well look at wildcard, and when it gets to that -8, -12, that's real wildcard zone. You should really think about, should I actually just use my wildcard this time, this early or this late in the season, and how close you are obviously at looking at the fixtures all in between. Don't look at, I know we spoke about this before, but it's really important to not look just at the single game week. Look at the chunks, or look at the whole fixtures for a particular team. Because you don't want to have to be putting people on your bench, and it's just too much of a shuffle, and you want to make sure you're getting the most out of the players that you have, getting their values right for what they are anticipated to score, I guess, what you want to do with them. Yeah.
I know the start of this season, I chose my team to have a good overall team, but I feel like I chose players that would end up on my bench and not used, and that was just like wasted money.
Yeah, you don't want to. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, don't be paying too much. On your bench, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I've got one. Obafemi on mine. He's injured. He's rumored to go elsewhere. But yeah, I mean, there's no point me moving him because I want to bring Ronaldo in. I want to make some more transfers. It's not really an issue for my bench to have one player that's not playing at all. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard, but you got to kind of suck it up.
Yeah, and kind of plan your team to have those players that might not play at all.
Yeah,
I know
we call
exactly
that
what you
bench
mean.
fodder. Bench fodder is when they just sit there and, but, there's nothing wrong with bench fodder. They're good.
No.
But yeah, it's key to remember that anything can happen in a game week. So don't panic, and you want to kind of think there is a reason that you chose that player. There's a reason you looked at, their stats, or there's a reason that people are talking about them. Try not to get caught up with the rage transfer or the knee jerk, which is like an immediate reaction. So those sorts of things. Oh my goodness, the amount of times I've watched a game and been like, the game hasn't even finished, and I really want to bring this player in. Ooh, no, definitely don't do that, because who knows what the other game
player out.
Yeah, exactly. Who knows what the game weeks will bring? And I've obviously researched. You put your time and effort into knowing the players you're bringing in, so kind of you got to just try to stick to that. It's really hard to do. It is. Absolutely.
Don't impulse buy or sell.
No,
Is
sounds
moral
like
of the
shopping,
story.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
You do your research, and sometimes it's the impulse buys, they still happen, So let's have a look. Staying up to date, what do we provide? What are we going to be doing? Is now that we've gone through some of these, we're going to answer any of your questions too. So if you've got a question, anything about your team, we're more than happy to answer those. Absolutely.
Yep. So get on the comments, get on our Twitter, submit a question, and we'll answer it for you.
Yeah.
Hell, even if you want to put your team up, put a screenshot up, we'll rate your team for you.
Yeah.
We'll tell you our opinion of how your team's going to go and if you should make any other transfers.
Absolutely. Well, we've talked a lot about the basics, about picking the right players, how to make your transfers, so making a single transfer in, or if you've saved up for 2 transfers, you can make 2 transfers within that week, or you could also take a hit as well. That's really important. We talked about navigating through the website, so the scoring system, the bonus points, how much you get for a clean sheet, assist, cards, those sorts of things. What else did we talk about? The chips. Not the crunchy chips, although I do like those chips. The chips as in the triple captain, bench boost, and free hit and wild card. So you get 1 of each, except for the wild card, you do get 2 of those. Double game weeks, blank game weeks, all at different parts of the season. That can be because of other games in other tournaments and all that. So that's really good to kind of get your head around once you kind of have an idea of what's coming. Let's see. Why is it fun to play? Well, it makes it more exciting. I love seeing
so exciting.
I know. I love being able to increase the knowledge that you have of the game. You really look at the stats of, the heat maps of where players are, because obviously they're training under a manager within a team. So it's so good to see how they gel as well with each other. Makes it more exciting, doesn't it?
Yeah, and actually just having a group of friends or a little community that you can play with makes it so much fun. Like, you don't want to play it by yourself. You want to be able to talk about it with your friends, or, actually have a good result and, talk about the game week. It's just really, it's a bunch of fun.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, it's always fun when you're like, oh, I've beat you by so many points. So a bit of a boast as well. So good for the ego.
Let's not talk about last season.
All right. We won't. I won't need to bring that up. So if you like what you've heard today, make sure to follow our Twitter and join our FPL conversations throughout the week.
Jump into our league using the code 7N16CE, or find it in our description below. We have prizes for the winners for the 21 to 22 Fantasy Premier League, which is a voucher of your choosing for $25 for the winner and $15 for the second prize.
Mind you, we are in Australia, so it is in Australian dollars, boys and girls, but don't you worry about that. We will get that to you if you are a winner. If you haven't already, guys, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. Don't forget to hit that like button down below.
In the coming episode, we will talk about the next FPL game week. With upcoming news, player injuries, and so many premium and essential players to choose from, we can help you figure out the best transfers you need for your team.
Yes. So to end our first ever FPL episode, we would just like to say, are you hungry for more?
Keep it positive.